unlock. Oh, okay, here we go. Okay. It looks like we are live. Welcome to the second episode, season 2, Unlock the Science of Beauty. My name is Sakeya Donaldson. I am your host and founder of the Science of Beauty. And before we get started, we would like to say thank you to our gracious host, Myavana TV, for hosting us on their amazing platform. And today we have a super duper special, amazing guest that I have been manifesting ever since I started this series last year. I was like, I got to get Manessa on the show, but Manessa is a busy girl. And, Manessa has things to do. And so I'm so very grateful that she was able to join us today. So before I introduce her, I want to tell you guys a little bit about her. Miss Manessa Lormejuste is a beauty scientist, product development strategist, and founder of LORM Co., a consultancy and that partners with brands to build science-backed, commercially resonant products across skincare, hair, body, and color cosmetics. Known for bridging deep technical expertise with business strategy, she has led innovation and product launches for global and emerging brands alike. Manessa began her career as a formulation chemist at L'Oreal USA, developing award-winning technologies across hair color, hair care, and skincare. She went on to drive product development at Beautycounter and Farmacy Beauty, shaping high-growth innovation pipelines and translating complex science into compelling consumer experiences. In 2024, she launched LORM Co. to advise fast-growing founders and established companies on innovation strategies, technical development, and product excellence. She also serves as scientific advisor to Mara, M-M-A-R-A.
Mara, yes.
Mara, a beauty tech company advancing personalized textured hair care through data and digital intelligence. Recognized as LinkedIn Top Voices in Beauty and a 2024 Top 30 Beauty Product Developer and Beauty Independent, Manessa holds a BA in Chemical Biology and an MBS in Personal Care Science from the Rutgers University. Y'all give it up for my girl, Manessa.
Are you rah?
I had to get that right. Because sometimes, you just got to get the people the stats and let them know what's going on. So thank you so much for joining me, Manessa.
Thanks for having me.
So this was definitely a long time coming. Manessa and I share a lot of firsts. So a few years ago, when I was really just starting out in the science of beauty, and I think it was my second program that I had did, and I had saw her on LinkedIn. And I was just like, wow, this girl is amazing. Like, she's beautiful. She's fly. Like, I had already gave her the name like Chemist Barbie. That was my thing.
And that was the year Barbie came out too.
Yes, that was the year the Barbie movie came out. And it was like, this is Chemist Barbie. And so she was like, when I thought of the concept of the science of beauty and what I wanted the young women to see as far as representation, I just felt like you just embodied that, right? You were fly, you were stylish, you were beautiful, and you were a chemist. I mean, you got degrees from Rutgers. That's not a small feat, right? And so I had reached out to Manessa and we set up a call, and she ended up flying down to Tampa, and we hosted her here, and she was the keynote speaker for our program that year. And the girls still talk about it. It still resonated with them. She had on her pink lab coat, and she had her wand curls, baby, and she had her pink heels laced up. I said, oh, she giving looks in the lab, honey. And so, like I said, it was just a lot of firsts. And I know at that time, you were transitioning from out of corporate, going more into consulting and content creation and things like that. And you were just like, wow, this is the first time that somebody booked me and flew me out. Girl, we flew you out, girl.
We did.
We flew my girl out. We put her up. We rolled out the red carpet for her. We just wanted her to feel so amazing. And now she's traveling all around the world. She's at Cosmo Pro. She's at all these beauty conferences. And so, it all started with the science of beauty, and we love that for her. So again, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, yes, yes. So you want to tell the people a little bit about yourself, maybe some things that I didn't get to mention?
Sure. Let's see. I call myself a girly nerd, right? Like I think you covered it. I love anything pink, anything girly, but for me, I think it's really important to be authentic in the work that you do. I talk a lot about my points of view when it comes to beauty. Like there are certain pillars that I believe in. I believe in sustainability. I believe in innovation. I believe in biotechnology. And in a lot of ways in which I approach product development, I always think of it through the lens of how can this be as disruptive as possible? How can founders push the bar a little bit further? And for me, it's all about bringing a unique experience to the market. Like I don't believe in bringing a product to the market that's a replica of something that exists, right? I don't think that that is the point of innovation. That's not the point of newness. And so I think there are really firm pillars that I have when it comes to product development. But I also balance that by doing a lot of work on my personal self, right? Like you mentioned, I like to travel. I've been traveling since I studied abroad in Paris almost 10 years ago. Actually, I've traveled to a lot of continents. Recently, I did a trip to Australia. And I like to approach my career as like a balance of professional accomplishments, but also personal accomplishments as well. Like I don't believe in doing all the things you've ever wanted to do when you retire, right? Like
Right.
I actually believe in micro retirement. So throughout my career, if I was ever like laid off from a job, I'm like, okay, trip booked, right?
Yeah,
Like
I got a few weeks.
like I don't believe in like letting things really like dim my light, right? I see a lot of things as just like an opportunity to pivot and do things differently. And I think that that's something that resonates well with the story of my career is like taking the pivots as they come. I don't think I've ever actually waited for something or like I guess you could say like in moments where I'm experiencing a pivot, I kind of take that as the charge to pursue something else.
Yeah.
And so I'm
I love
always thinking how I can kind of like keep improving myself from there.
I love that. I love that. So let's get into this discussion a little bit. The journey into beauty science. So many people don't even realize that beauty products are created by scientists. What first sparked your interest in cosmetic chemistry, and when did you realize that this can actually be a career? I mean, I know the story, but share it with share it with the others.
It's interesting because every time I share this story, it almost feels unreal. I originally wanted to work in the pharmaceutical industry. I'm very nerdy, right? Like I love molecules. I love understanding how they target different parts of the body now, different parts of the skin and hair. But
You love molecules, Manessa.
Hello, do you see the logo? Like, don't play with it. I love molecules. Like, I love molecules. I used to like in college have to redo molecules like in 3D models. And I was actually thinking about it the other day. I lost one of my 3D models from college, but I'm gonna buy it again. But I've always just loved science. I've always loved chemistry. And originally I wanted to work in pharmaceutical because my mom always worked in like the healthcare field. And so I was always drawn to like medicine, and I'm Caribbean, and in my culture, you're either a doctor, nurse, or lawyer. So the two kind
or
of
engineer
too. And so I always wanted to work in pharma, and that didn't pan out the way I wanted it to when I got to Rutgers because I didn't get into the pharmacy program there. But what I did do was study just general chemistry. And over time, just from a Google search, right, which is I find so ironic because now someone would probably do this through Chat GPT or Claude. I kind of Googled like, what do chemistry majors do, right? Like I didn't grow up with role models that studied chemistry or anything like that. So it was really being Google kind of locked in to decide what I was going to do for work. And I learned that you could do things like agricultural chemistry, food chemistry, automotive chemistry, and then the term cosmetic chemistry kind of like came, and I was like, well, what is that? Until this day, I remember like going down the rabbit hole, finding out that L'Oreal hired cosmetic chemists, Estee Lauder hired cosmetic chemists, P&G hired cosmetic chemists. And these were all companies I know of, right? Like we all know of them, especially from like a mass market perspective. And then I kind of just read the job description of a cosmetic chemist or a cosmetic formulator at L'Oreal. And I was like, wow, like this is exactly what I want to do. I grew up very obsessed with mascara, eyeshadow, lip gloss, right? Like to me, it was extremely practical to think about, oh, like I could just make lip gloss. Like, oh, I could make lotion. And that's kind of how I discovered the field. And then really pushed to get an internship at L'Oreal when I was in undergrad. And then that led me to intern one summer. And then I got my first big girl job at L'Oreal.
Listen, the Google search is going to save the day every
Every
time.
time.
Every time the Google search is going to save the day. And when I talk to so many women and people in this space, they have a similar story. Like there was no blueprint, there was no straight path. It was kind of like, oh, you can do this. And in all honesty, that's how I became a fashion stylist. I didn't know what a fashion stylist was. I used to, when I was in school, I
Yeah.
used to work at a recording studio in Atlanta. I was like the girl that sat at the front desk and answered the phone. And I used to have to open up all the mail with all the mixtapes and people sending their tapes in and stuff. And, you know, people just used to always compliment me like, oh, Sakeya, you look so nice. Like, I love the way you dress. You're fly. And then one day somebody was like, oh, you should be a stylist. And I was like, well, what is that? And they were like, oh, you know, you can dress artists for music videos. And I was like, for real? They going to pay me? And they were like, yeah. And they were like, yeah. And that was the time, like, when Atlanta had the music industry in a chokehold, like it was starting out. And that's literally how I became a stylist. I was going to school for marketing, and somebody just so happened to tell me that existed, and boom, 20 years later, that's what it was. So definitely. So if you guys are watching, at the end, we'll take questions. So if you have questions, please put them in the comment section. So let's continue. You started your career at L'Oreal, like you stated, developing award-winning technologies. What does the process of creating a beauty product actually look like from bench to shelf?
I think this is a great question because the process can look so differently depending on the stage the company is in, where the founder is at in kind of like developing the brand. But it all starts with the concept, right? And so the concept is like an overall idea of what you want the product to look like, feel like, smell like, what ingredients you want it to have. But even before really refining a concept, you have to do like market research, right? Like I mentioned earlier, I don't think that there's necessarily a point of bringing something to the market unless you have like a white space or newness opportunity. And so sometimes that is looking at where retail is right now. Like what are brands launching? How are they communicating product benefits? Sometimes it's thinking about where the next 5-10 years of the industry is going, right? Because sometimes you want to develop and be ahead of the trend. Right. You don't always want to be chasing trends. And so I think about it as like compiling a lot of different data points. So you're looking at the market, you're looking at the numbers, you're looking at textures, you're looking at ingredients, and then you create this high level idea of what the product is that you want. And then you pitch that to an R&D team if you have one internally, or a contract manufacturing facility to formulate for you. And so that then becomes an iterative process where they make the prototype, they send it to you, you evaluate it. You might like the way it feels. You might hate the way it feels. You might want to make it pink. You might want to make it more white. You might want to change the fragrance, right? You might want to scrap all the ingredients that you originally thought you wanted and then change direction entirely. And so a lot of times I've seen that kind of go through like 3 or 4 rounds of refinement between the product development marketing team and then the lab. Once the formula is pretty much approved, you would then put it through stability testing, right? Because you want to make sure the formula is stable. Sometimes, right, no matter how many times you've made a product on the bench, it could just be unstable. It could destabilize. And so stability testing is a big source of information gathering for how long the product would be viable on the shelf. And then you do other types of tests, right? So depending on the category, depending on the product, you would want to do safety testing to make sure it doesn't cause any adverse reactions on skin. You might have to do heavy metal, preservative efficacy testing, which is like how well your microbiology system can kill germs if introduced into the product. And then you might want to do consumer perception, right? So a lot of times on skincare products, you see increases hydration by X%, or with makeup products, you might see claims like all day hydration. Those are either done through clinical testing or consumer perception, where you see the other claims where it's like X% of users believe the product blends well into my skin or leaves me glowy. From there, you run scale up, right? So scale up is usually like a pilot batch. It's kind of saying, okay, from like maybe the 1 to 3 kilo size we did on the bench, could we do 20, 50, 100 kilos to scale? And along the way, what you're essentially doing is collecting a lot of data points to say that the formula is going to be viable from a commercial standpoint, right? Because just because you make something in the lab doesn't mean when you go make it at 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 units, you'll get kind of like the same profile. And so
the mass production of it.
Exactly. And so one thing I like to educate my clients on is that you want as many data points as possible, because in the event that you get to production and something goes wrong, you have different levels of data that you can reference, right? So you can reference how the formula performed on the bench. You have a reference point of how it performed in pilot, and you can compare that to your production batch. I usually say the timing between pilot to production is usually the shortest. Once you pass pilot and you know that your formula is going to be okay in the packaging you select, you know it dispenses well, it's pretty much you're just crossing your fingers that in production nothing else goes crazy. I would say the thing about product development is that no two projects are the same. I've worked on projects where at the onset it seemed like it was going to be an easy win, and then you get to pilot and you're like, this texture is completely off. Or something happens with packaging and you're like, why did we pick that pack for the conditioner? It's a very nuanced field, but I think it presents itself with so many like interesting challenges. And so I feel like if you're someone that likes to do puzzles, you like solving challenges, product development is a really good place for you to be in.
Yeah. So something that you said that I talk to my students a lot about is like engineering, like packaging, right?
Yes.
And so that's a very important thing. And I tell them, like, how I describe it to them, it's like, we've all had that container of lotion and it gets down to probably like a quarter of the product in the bottom of the bottle, and you can't get it out through the pump. You have to take the pump off and you got to beat it in your hand like this.
Why are we doing all of that? Like, or my not my favorite, but the one that I hate is like if you have a pump and you're dispensing something creamy and the orifice is so tiny. Why? What are you doing here?
It's like, how is it going to move freely through that?
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't want to pay this amount of money for a product and 25% of it is still left in the bottom of the bottle. Like, that's not what we're doing. And so that's another important thing. Like I was telling girls, like, hey, you can be an engineer, right? So you can develop hoses for the pumps for the formula to flow through. And I tell them about, what is it, like boba tea? Is that what it's called? Boba tea?
With the balls at the bottom.
Right. But you see how they use the big straws,
Absolutely.
right? So they develop
intuitive. Yeah.
Because what else are we doing here? Like, this is crazy. And so that's really, that's just another entry point into the cosmetic chemistry space, because some girls, like, they may not want to formulate. They might want to be engineers. And it's like, well, you can be an engineer and still work in the beauty space. And so I'm glad that you said that, because it's just like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing?
I agree with you. I think packaging engineers play a very pivotal role in how product development is done efficiently. And it's something I realize a lot of companies do differently, right? Like, I love working with packaging at the start of the project. Like, hey, it's going to be a cream. What's the tubes looking like? Let's get the orifices in check early so we're not scrambling. Formula is approved. Now it's not going through the tube. Like, we had 3 months to figure
this out.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
We're ready to ship. What is this?
What's going on here?
So this is another point. Science versus marketing. Ooh, child. So consumers hear words like clean, clinical, dermatologist tested all the time. From a scientist perspective, how much of the beauty industry is real science versus clever marketing?
Well, you are speaking to a scientist, so I'm going to say beauty is 100% a science. Like I would never
Yes.
sit here and say it's not, because essentially it's chemistry, right? The way that the lotion is stable enough for you to use it at home, that's synergy.
Right.
Um, that's like it is just inherently very, very scientific. I think how consumers are spoken to about products, what they do, their efficacy, I think there is a little bit more of marketing. That's communication, that's strategy at play. But I think when it comes to things like if you see claims, right?
Mhm.
Clinical claims, that is validated by a study. There's a testing method that says you can only say you have 8 hours of hydration if you do a study specifically this way. You can only say like reduces hair breakage by 20% if it's validated by a study. So I think it really depends on what type of information the consumer is listening to say, okay, is this clever marketing or is this backed by science? But I think formulas inherently are a scientific feat, right? The way that you're able to emulsify water with oils to create emulsions, that's science. But when you talk about things like, oh, how clean is this product? Perhaps that is more of a marketing term because clean, there's no scientific definition for clean.
Right.
One of the things I've seen is that brands often adapt their own meaning to clean, right? Sometimes that's done based on what the founder believes in, where they're probably selling the product from a retail perspective, and what clean signifies in that category. So, clean makeup and clean skincare, they abide by very different rules, but in a way that they're still kind of umbrellaed under the term clean beauty. So it's an interesting conversation. But if you ask me, it's always going to be science. Beauty,
Yeah.
100% science based.
And when I think about science versus marketing, because like you're a scientist, I'm a marketer, right? So
We're on the same team though,
yeah,
right?
no, we have to be, right? Because
Yeah.
the marketing department is gonna come up with this. We want this amazing product that does this, and this. Like they got 6 claims that they want the product to be able to do. And then they take those ideals to the chemist, and the chemist is looking like, you want us to do what? You
And
you
I've
want us
been
to
that chemist before. I've been the chemist that was asked to add like a water based ingredient into a completely anhydrous or oil based system. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, but like, what happened to oil and water don't mix? Like, what do we? And it's
They
not an
don't
emotion.
care. They don't
Like,
care. They
what
want to
is
put it on
it?
the box. They want to put it on the bottle. That's for you to figure out. That's your job to figure it out. And
Yeah.
so when I look at science and marketing, that's my thought process. Like, we have these grand ideals, these products. We want to be first to
Right.
market with certain things. And then it's like, but when you get to the science of it, it just doesn't make sense.
And sometimes that is what it is. Like I've worked on so many projects where the math was not mathing. And like that is like a really hard place to be because sometimes you're going to have to still figure out how it works, but
Right.
to be the one that says like we have tried this formula 20 times. We've formulated it 20 different ways. We've tried several different processes. We are kind of like capped at how much we can scale it. That's a really hard conversation to have, but at the end of the day, it's science, right?
Yeah,
Like if it's going to work, it's going to work, and if it's not, you
it's
can't
not.
get it to be.
Back to the drawing board.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes. Representation in beauty science. I think this is something that's very, very important and near and dear to both of us. So, Black women are huge drivers of the beauty economy, but far fewer are represented behind the scenes in labs and product development. Why do you think that gap exists?
Well, I think the gap exists for a lot of reasons. If you look at like big organizations, there's not that many of us at the organization to begin with. And then there's not that many of us that make it to hiring positions and roles in which we are responsible for talent. So there is an inherent bias to cater to people that maybe look like you, come from the same school as you. And so if you think about it, it's like we're not even in the decision making seat to reach back and grab one of our own to put in these positions. The other thing I think happens a lot is that Black women tend to tend to be underrepresented in STEM in general. This is
Yeah.
actually something I've researched for years. Since I was in undergrad, I was always in like STEM programs, like programs where it's like, okay, let's increase the number of Black women, Black students in STEM. But even with that, I would still be like one of the only. Like I remember being one of the only Black girls in my 350 person general chemistry class. That's the intro.
General. I would say that's the baseline.
Yes. So what do you think happens after it's Gen Chem?
And
Then
then
it's
you have to go
workload,
into
then it's
your
analytical, where the class gets smaller. I'm still the only, right? Like I decided, okay, I'm going to pursue this degree, but there's not an increase of people that look like me in the field. And I think it's that, right? But then I think when you think of beauty specifically, this is just not a field in which we're represented. We're not necessarily represented in ads. We're not represented in ways that seem like this is something that's tangible for us. And so one of the things I talked about in a previous podcast was that I think there's an access issue. Like there's a gap in the pipeline for talent from not just an undergraduate level. I would even argue like a high school, middle school level, where that's when students get the idea of maybe what they want to pursue in life. And so if they don't have the representation of a scientist, right, regardless if the scientist is a beauty scientist, agricultural scientist, there's just this lack of representation in the sciences for us that just carries through. It carries through higher education. It carries through like entry level corporate jobs, and then it carries through mid career. But one of the things I will say I feel I'm seeing a little bit more of is social media kind of showing more of a behind the scenes aspect of people in their careers. Like TikTok, right? There's tons of scientists on TikTok. There's a lot of derms on TikTok with diversified backgrounds. But I think as those kind of like influencers and content creators show more of like their behind the scenes, I think we'll see younger students become interested in the field and maybe pursue that as like a educational or career path. But the other thing I would say too, when it comes to beauty education specifically, there's a very small number of institutions that cater to cosmetic science, beauty science at like an undergraduate, even graduate level. And
yeah.
so the career fields exist, the education pathways may not be as popular as other fields just yet.
Yeah. Girl, you said a mouthful. You said a mouthful right there because this is a conversation that I have on a daily basis, right? And that was the whole premise of the science of beauty. So I was talking to a colleague and I explained to him what the life cycle of a science of beauty student looked like. So last year, I developed a product. I developed a STEM kit, like a DIY STEM kit that students can do at home.
Okay.
And so now I've partnered with Hillsborough County Public Schools, which is the school district that I reside in. And we're targeting middle school students for this program, right? So my thought process, the life cycle of a science of beauty student starts in middle school with the STEM kits. And we have 6 verticals. We focus on body care, hair care, skin care, makeup, fragrance development, and nails. So that's 6 verticals.
Awesome.
And so once they go through that, now they get to high school. Now in high school, they start attending the science of beauty camps like the one that you spoke at. So now you have industry coming in, right? Now you're at Spelman, you're at Xavier, you're in the lab actually formulating with chemists from these brands. And then from there, you go through that program, then you graduate from high school. Now you go on to your respective university and you study some form of chemistry, general chem, until you can, if you're not in one of the 5 or 6 institutions in the whole entire country that has this type of degree, right? And then, I'm helping my students get internships, just based on the industry connections that I've been able to establish, with the hopes that once they finish their college degree, they can have employment. And so that's the life cycle of a science of beauty student. And then my goal is to create like an ecosystem of students that have went through this program and have went on to work at L'Oreal and P&G and Estee Lauder, and they're in these places and spaces where they can offer internships and mentorships and cohorts and different things like that. So I'm looking at it like, okay, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, what is this landscape going to look like because of what I started 3-4 years ago, you know? And when I'm going into these schools and I'm doing presentations, everybody's like, yeah, we have a robotics club. Yeah, we have a coding club. And I'm like, yeah, you can get that anywhere, right? But you don't have this. And this is what the girls are interested in. Like I said, when I go in Sephora and when I go in Ulta, the little girlies are in there.
Oh, they're in there. Okay. They're in my way, but they're in there.
In my way. I'm trying to get to the Sol de Janeiro, the new one that smell like macadamia nuts. And the girl is, I'm just like, baby girl.
Touching all the lip gloss, listen, I get it, but just move a little bit. That's all I'm saying. That's it.
Listen, I read somewhere they said Gen Alpha, that's 8 to 12 years old. 8 to 12. Spent $4.9 billion in Sephora last year. They don't even got no jobs, sis. Like,
I'm saying they don't even have money. Like, they are spending somebody else's money.
How is your demographic? How is your largest demographic unemployed, Sephora? How?
Listen.
How, Sway?
That is insane.
That is insane. And it's like I'm in line and I'm listening to one of the little girls. She's talking to her mom and she's trying to convince her mom why she should get this Tuesday something. What is it? Tuesday?
Summer Fridays?
Summer Friday. Girl, I done called it Tuesday.
He said two. I'm like, I knew. We said a day a week.
Yeah, it was one day. It was like a lip something.
Yeah, lip gloss.
$30 for this, right? And I'm like, what happened to Carmex? And the mom's like, why do you need this? And the girl go right to her phone and pull up TikTok. Like, see? Yeah. And I'm just like, that's marketing.
Oh, they locked in.
I'm talking about locked in, tuned in, and ready to spin. It is crazy. It is crazy. I'm just like, how do you, as a business, as a corporation, as a brand, how do you prepare or how do you market to a consumer that doesn't have a job? Like,
the thing is, I feel like for some brands, it's unintentional. Like, they're not intentionally marketing to kids.
Right.
Sometimes it's just like their color palette. Like Gen Alpha is like more drawn to it. Right. But also I feel like kids are naturally curious. They want to do the same stuff that their parents are doing, their mom is doing. And I have 2 young nieces, and there was a time I'm a skincare girl, right? So I'm doing my skincare. I'm at their house. She's like, TT, what is that? Like, what are you doing? And I was like, let me just give her. I took a paper towel and I cut slits out for the eye, and I just put some water on it because I'm not going to put the same stuff I use on her. Right. And I was like, I don't want her to feel like she's not included or like I don't want to play with her. So we're both on the couch, face mask. Hers has water. She doesn't know. Like, she's just
vibing. She's just vibing.
Yeah. She just got her feet up, drinking her water like her TT. But like, that to me is more appropriate for kids. Like, correct. I'm not buying a child the same lip gloss that I spend my hard-earned money on.
We not doing it. My friend called me like, Angel wants this Glow Recipe toner. I'm like, girl, I use Glow Recipe.
She doesn't need it.
It's $40 and it has hyaluronic acid in it. She don't need it. It's crazy. It's crazy. So switching gears a little bit from chemist to founder. So you transitioned from working inside major beauty companies to launching your own consultancy, LORM Co. What pushed you to make the leap from scientist to entrepreneur?
So I think this one is more of I kind of had to move with the market. So earlier in the conversation, I talked about like knowing when to pivot. I had worked for 2 startups. startups like crash and burn, ran out of money, ended up being laid off twice. And in the pursuit of another job, I realized I didn't want to sign up for the same thing. I didn't want to go work for another startup, who knows, in another year or two crashes and burns. So I was also at the time getting a lot of like inbound requests for consulting projects, right? Whether it was like from a content perspective, there were companies I helped with like their growth marketing from like my POV as a chemist. And I just decided I'm going to lean into consulting, right? Like, I think it was more of a matter of understanding the market at the time, which is ironic because now across industries, I feel like you're seeing a rise of consultants. So there's a lot of people doing marketing consulting, there's a lot of people doing tech consulting, and not from a career perspective, right? Because that's always existed, people helping you interview better, tailor your resume, but like
Right.
really,
Headhunters,
exactly, but
things like
really
that.
doing the consulting work from a product perspective. And I absolutely love it. I think it's very suiting for me. And it's ironic because people had told me maybe like 4 years ago to go into consulting. But again, I didn't really know anyone consulting. It seemed really risky. And I think I'm front facing enough. I have enough industry connections where I do kind of just get opportunities. Like people will find me, whether it's through Google, whether it's through word of mouth, that it's been able to sustain itself for the last 2 years. And year over year, I do feel like I'm growing in my business, and it's been a really interesting ride. It's tested my faith, my confidence a lot. But I really enjoyed the space that I'm at right now.
Yeah, I love that. And I always tell people, like with anything in life, like the market is going to determine what your next move is, right? You
Exactly.
can have all these plans, but baby, the data going to come back and show you where you need to go, what you need to do.
No, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I said. Like I was talking to someone and I was like, listen, I just look at patterns and I analyze data. That's all I do. I don't
Yeah.
take your feelings out of it. This is not an emotional decision. I'm just listen. The data shows that I need to go on. So I'm just gonna go on.
I'm just going over here. Thanks.
Bye. Seriously. So the future of beauty science. You're also working in beauty tech with Mara. How do you see AI data and personalization changing how beauty products are developed in the next decade?
I feel like it's going to be a matter of people wanting to adopt technology and data into the way that they tackle, whether it's like product development, marketing. One of the things I've seen in beauty specifically is that even with adopting new software, there is kind of like a hesitance for adaptation or adoption because people are very used to doing things their own way. Um,
Right.
I think because beauty is not, let's say, inherently designed on tech, that it really takes a lot of leadership change, really clear strategy for people to kind of really adopt technology AI into the way that they work.
Right.
Personally, I use a lot of AI and a lot of data in the work that I do because I feel like it helps me streamline my workflows a lot better, but also it helps me understand what gaps I have, right? Like the way that I think versus the way that Claude or ChatGPT may think is very, very different. And so, especially as someone that's running a consulting company now as like a solo contributor, I
Right.
want to make sure I'm not missing anything. And by
Mhm.
having AI really embedded into the way that I work, it helps me make sure I'm not missing any gaps, right? Um,
Mhm.
Moreover, earlier this year, I actually put all the tools that I use into ChatGPT. So we're talking about like Squarespace, HoneyBook, Notion, the bank that I use, and I made it optimize my workflow. I said, hey, I pay for all of these tools. I use all these tools. How can I do this more efficiently? And so it kind of understood the offerings of each platform and told me, like, okay, you're going to run your website through here. You're going to use this for invoicing. You're going to use this for your notes. You're going to use this to manage how you bill clients. And what I ended up realizing was that I was spending a lot of time tracking a lot of the tasks that I was doing for my clients. But through ChatGPT and Notion AI, it literally created, and I'm not making this up, a client task manager for me that pulled every task that I had ever done for clients that I built in the past, created this database. And so now I just go in and let's say it's March 17th and I'm working for client X today, I can just add the date. And then there's all these things that I either did for them that day that I could just add to my task tracker. We are talking about this has saved me at least 4 hours every week in terms of managing my time,
Oh
being
my God.
responsibility. And that's just like one way. That
Yeah.
is one very clear example of how I've used it. And it's interesting because I didn't even know Notion AI could build databases for you. And I
Mhm.
love database. I love a chart. I love something
Right.
organized. And so for me, it's just helped me operate my business a lot faster, which I think is the point of technology, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Especially being a solopreneur, right? We need to kind
Absolutely.
of reclaim our time. And
Absolutely.
like I'm going through that same thing now that I've introduced a product to our, to my branding. And it's like now I have to create CRMs. Now I have to streamline, when first touch points, follow-up touch
Absolutely.
points.
Email,
So
right?
email. It's like,
Files. Mm-hmm.
what? It's
I
like
recommend HoneyBook. HoneyBook and I learned how to use it a lot better and I love it. I love it so much.
y'all go together real bad.
Real bad. Like per client, I have all of my documents, all of my notes. It even integrates into my email so I could see if someone read something, if they clicked on something I sent them. I love HoneyBook. I love it.
Wow. Now let me ask you, what is Mara?
Mara, we're kind of like in the phases of repositioning it, but
Okay.
previously it was an app where users could go in and track a lot of products that they were using to minimize hair loss. So it would help you understand what shampoo, conditioner you're using, ingredients that were in there, and really tailor more of a custom regimen for you to take better care of your hair. The app is now being repositioned to focus more on preventing hair loss, not just from a topical product perspective, but also tracking lifestyle changes and things like that.
Diet, things like that.
Exactly, like fitness level, activity, all ways in which certain environmental factors too are impacting women's hair loss, even like age, right? Like where you are and maybe like your menstrual cycle. So it's really interesting. I think it still fits into like wellness and
Right.
beauty, but definitely designed to be more tech facing.
Right, right. And I'm not sure how familiar you are with my Ivana's platform. But it's not the same, but kind of the same. And what Candace has built, on the platform as far as, the AI system that it used, kind of a product recommendation
Right.
tool, because we all have a drawer full of products
A
that
drawer, bathroom, whole bathroom.
not the whole bathroom.
Shelves,
Listen,
shelves,
if the scientist is making it can't figure out what she should be using, we all in trouble. We need
you
my
don't
Ivana and Candace.
understand.
Need you, girl.
It's like okay. It's like the products. If we're being honest, the products I use on my wig are different than the products I use on my hair. Different than the
Right.
products I use on my body. I just got products, but I'm also a product girl. Like I'm like, oh, what's this? I don't know. I love it.
And then you probably get a lot of
Yes.
free stuff
Yes.
to try out. So it's just you kind of just be like, I'm just everything. Why
Drop
do I have 5 body butters?
off like boxes of product to my friends, to my family. I'm just like, y'all gonna have to take this. I can't even look at it.
I can't.
I can't even look at it.
Like I cannot, right? No, I get it. So the power of the scientists in the room. You said the scientists play a much bigger role in shaping products than people realize. How much influence does the formulation scientist actually have on the final product?
Well, I feel like they control the final product, right? So even when I was on the bench at L'Oreal, I could make a formula, it could be approved, but as I'm monitoring it, right? If the color is shifting, if the product is separating, if something weird is happening, if it's no longer compatible for the packaging, it's up to me to flag that to my manager, to upper management, and say like, hey, we have to rethink where we're going with this product, how we're thinking of placing it on the market. And also, as a scientist, you're responsible for a lot of how the product is validated and communicated, right? So if a brand wants to say the vitamin C is brightening is causing like the brightening benefit in the formula, I have to make sure I have data to substantiate that, which could either be from the supplier of the vitamin C, whether it's a study that we did. And so it's a lot of making sure anything that you say externally, you have data to support it and back it up. And I think what you notice is like formulation scientists don't necessarily have the same jobs at every company, which
Right.
I always say is very similar to product development. And so I was very fortunate at the start of my career to be a scientist that was hands-on when it came to pilots, right? So like I was there when they were making my batch at a 20 kilo, 30 kilo scale. And I saw what processing engineers do, how they look at processes different than I do. I worked very hands-on with marketing teams. Like, how are we going to communicate this? What are some key ingredients we're going to communicate here? How can we ensure that we're getting these claims validated when it came to our study design? And so it's interesting because some scientists are very just like head down on the bench, making formula day after day, day after day, not necessarily tasked with what the implications of that would be on the market. And so it's a very fulfilling, I think, career too, because my favorite part has always been the finished product on the shelf. Like
Right.
for me, that's like, okay, the formula's in there, the packaging, the unit carton, like even like how the brand goes on to make campaigns out of the product, I think have always just been what makes me feel like, okay, all of that hard work was worth it. Because you could get paid to do anything, right?
Yeah.
Like a job is a job, but
Yeah.
really feeling fulfilled in the work that you do, I think is really important.
Yeah. Going into, you know, Ulta and seeing one of your products that you develop on
On
the
the shelf.
shelf, like that is
Crazy.
insane. I
Yeah.
would gag, like, because I always tell people, like, the work is the work. Like, that's what it is. But once you reach a goal or you hit a milestone, the work isn't even going to matter. The time isn't going to matter. The work isn't going to matter, because at the end of the day, the goal was to get to the goal. And so
Absolutely.
now that we're here, now that we're on the shelf, now that we're moving units, now that we're doing photo shoots and marketing campaigns and ad campaigns and things like that, like the work is just the work. Like you can't get around it. So I think that's what's really exciting about this space, right? It's the creativity. Like I used to have those highs when I was styling. I remember a couple years ago I was in New York and I had went to the Brooklyn Museum when Jay-Z had his Book of Hove exhibit for, I think it was like the 50 years of hip hop or something like that. And so I went with a couple of my friends because we were in New York, and I'm just walking through the exhibit, and there was a wall, and he had all of his magazine covers that he
Okay.
had ever done on the wall. And I saw one that I had worked on. I didn't style
That's
him. I
amazing.
know it was for double XL. I didn't style him, but I styled Foxy Brown, who was on the spread. And so it was like he had just got the job at Def Jam, so he was like the president. So they had it set up like he was in the Oval Office. And I
Ah,
mean
okay.
that photo shoot was crazy. Like Kanye's there, LeBron is there, Foxy is there, like everybody is there. And like when I saw it in the museum, I kind of like gasped because it had happened so long ago. Like I had totally even forgot
Yep.
that
Yep.
that had happened. And when I'm walking through and I saw it, I kind of was like, oh my God, like, and I don't know if I had a little tear or something like that, but it was just like, dang, like when you create things and they're kind of solidified in a moment and visually and tangible where you can touch it and feel it and revisit it just gives it a whole different meaning. And I think that's why as creatives, we're so passionate about the things that we do and that we create. So yeah, I mean, being a young girl creating a skincare product that loves skincare, girl, I know you be in heaven. No,
And
you
it's
be.
so interesting because as I've worked in beauty, my interests have changed too. So like
Yeah.
over the last year and a half, I've worked more on like color cosmetic products, which was what I wanted to do originally. Like when I first got to L'Oreal, I was begging them put me on a lipstick project. But
Please.
I was begging. I was like, listen, I wear lipstick all the time. Like begging anybody that would listen to me, I'd be like, okay, can I get on the makeup team? Can I get on the makeup? And it didn't happen, right? So, which
Yeah.
is fine, right? Because I feel
Yeah.
like everything in my career has happened for a reason. Like I started
Mhm.
in hair color and it taught me how to be so meticulous. And so now I've gotten to work a lot with like color cosmetic founders. And a lot of the stuff I originally learned in hair color has been so transversal. And so I'm at a point where I can confidently say I've developed in every category. I've done body, I've done men's, I've done skin, I've done color, I've done hair, right? And that's not a feat that a lot of people can accomplish in the
Right.
time that I've done it,
Right.
which makes me feel really, really happy about my career.
Listen. That girl say I'm goated in several categories. Okay. Listen, sometimes you gotta slide your resume across the table because the people go play on your
Don't you
top.
try to play with it. Don't play with me.
Don't play with me.
Not
Okay.
me.
I'm Manessa Low.
Hello?
Get
Not
it
the
to
not the not the low one, the big one.
it. The biggest one. So we're our time is winding down a little bit. You guys, if you have any questions, definitely put them in the chat. We'll get to them once we wrap. So some advice for the next generation, for young girls who love beauty but also love science, especially those watching this conversation. What path should they explore if they want to work in cosmetic chemistry or product development?
I always say it starts with a really strong science foundation, and science could be like STEM, right? So science, technology, engineering, or math. I think understanding science, how to analyze, how to hypothesize, how to come and draw conclusions is very key because in this industry, you have to think 10 steps ahead, right? So, like, I could have a client say to me, oh, Manessa, I want to launch a clear lip gloss. That sounds good. But like I know to be a successful brand, how many shades you need to have at launch, what color profile they need to be, what challenges that might pose when it comes to animating the next assortment of products. And so one of the things I've learned is to always think ahead. Even with one of the clients I'd been working with last year, as we're developing shades, I knew what the targets were, but I had a side note of all the other shades I knew she should launch to make her brand a little bit more cohesive and to continue to drive growth as the brand goes live. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and for me, I think it's really important to just have a strong foundation in something because it doesn't matter where you start. It's just about where you're going, right? Like I could have said, oh, I've started in hair color and then never worked in another category. But that's not the career I wanted for myself. I knew that I was very interested in skincare. I knew I had a nose for fragrance. So I always put myself in positions of opportunity to kind of keep learning. I never stopped at where I started. I've always kind of learned and added to kind of like my skill set. And I think that's important because the industry is going to change, right? Like there's years where makeup is the hottest category. We're just kind of like slowing down from a big skincare rise.
Skincare, yeah.
Exactly. And so you have to be able to be dynamic. You have to be able to kind of like change as the categories do too. And I think also just betting on yourself. I think society does a really bad job of making young girls think that they have to follow one path. There's only one right way of doing things. And I completely disagree with that. I think you should listen to yourself, right? Like the desires of your heart are there for a reason, right? Like
Yeah.
the desires you have, other people might not have, or they might not even execute it the same way that you do. And I think you would not only be doing yourself a disservice, but society a disservice if you don't really lean into that and really see how far you can take it, right? Like entrepreneurship may not be for everybody, but that
Right.
doesn't mean you can't explore all of the interests that you have. I think just betting on you, right?
Yeah.
Like even in college, I had a lot of professors kind of like discredit me because I didn't want a PhD. But I knew I wanted to work in beauty, right? Like the other kids didn't know what they wanted to do, right? But I
They
always
need to keep going to school till they figure it out.
like, y'all could keep racking up all that debt that y'all doing over there because you don't know what you want to do. But I always was clear on what I wanted to do. And if
Yeah.
someone told me no, I just would ask somebody else. Like I would. I know this is like, okay, girl, you don't get the picture. You don't get the vision.
You don't see the vision.
Yeah, next
I'll just
door.
move along. No
Yeah.
worries. No worries. But something you said a few things that you said. Bet on yourself is kind of like my life's mantra, right? Because like I said, I came from fashion. So when I came into this space, it was like, first off, the people didn't understand. Like, Sakeya, what? Like, people thought I was saying like stem cells. Like, and I'm like, no, this. And they're just like, oh, okay, and I think for me, people wouldn't really tell me to my face, like, girl, you is crazy. But, some of the things, the roundabout way, it was like, girl, you is crazy. But I saw the bigger picture. I saw the vision. I saw the gap, right? And I knew that I could fill the gap. And I like my first program that I put on, I didn't know anything about grants. I didn't know anything about sponsorships. I didn't know anything about in-kind product donation. I didn't know anything about anything. And I spent $20,000 of my own money putting on my first Science of Beauty program. Like, you came to the program, like, we not cheating the girls. The girls is having a ball. The girls is chilling.
Snacks, food, everything. The girls for a week. It was a week-long program.
Yes. And it's like I'm taking them to the Essence Festival. Like, we living it up. We doing all the things. And it's like, now I'm at this space. I've developed a product. I'm partnering with HBCUs. I'm speaking on panels and this. And it's like, oh, Sakeya, you're doing so amazing. I was like, okay, but like 3-4 years ago, y'all was talking about me saying I was crazy behind their back, but it's cool, no problem. I'm not gonna hold that against y'all. It's cool. You know what I mean? And then another thing that you spoke about, skill stacking, right? That's very, 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 very important. Very extremely important. Because at the end of the day, you have to be an outlier, right? You have to be able to separate yourself from the fray and bring something, whether it's your lived experience, whether it's your knowledge, whether it's your network, whether it's your resources. You have to be able to bring something different to the customer and in order to be successful. Like, we're so saturated and bombarded with information and things like that. It's like, what's going to make you stand out from the fray? So to wrap things up, Manessa, your career sits at the intersection of science, innovation, and business strategy. What does it truly mean to go beyond the formula in the beauty industry today?
Ooh, that is juicy. I think it's about meeting the consumer where they are. I think we're at a very interesting time where it's not just about going to like a department store. Like, something I remember with my mom when I was younger, we'd always go to Macy's. What's the lady at the Macy's counter talking about, right? Then that evolved to like me exploring CVS and like touching things. And I remember for prom, I went to the Mac counter. The way that people shop now is so different.
So
it's
different.
Very
So
omni-channel, right? Like, there's been times I've discovered fragrances that I'm obsessed with in the airport. So it's no longer like, oh, how am I shopping on the weekends? It's like, beauty is immersive and omni-channel across so many different facets. I told you when I was traveling in Australia, I went to a Becca pop-up at the Australian Open. Like, that just sounds crazy, right? But today, consumers have this thirst for experiences. They have a thirst for activations. They have a thirst for one-off unique moments. And I think the more that brands can create these bespoke moments for consumers is how you build trust. It's how you build repeat customers. It's how you build loyalty. And it's like, it's not just with the formula. A lot of times it's with the packaging, it's with the communication, it's with even how founders are showing up for the brands and what founders personally believe in, right? Like, I think 15, 20 years ago, it didn't matter what a founder's political views were. It didn't matter what a founder did on the weekends. It didn't matter like how they spent, their free time. And now it's like, You say one wrong thing, it's over for you.
Baby, don't
Yeah,
get canceled. Don't get
don't
canceled.
get canceled. And like, I think that that shows a lot about the power that consumers have, and really kind of, I would say, like, owning your dollar. Like I always say, my power is in my dollar. If
Yeah.
I don't like what y'all got going on over there, I'm not
I
giving
ain't
you
spending
my
my
money.
money.
It's very simple,
It's
right?
very
Like,
simple.
and with beauty, it's like every year after year, the competition is just getting fiercer. And I'm not just talking about big brands. Like you mentioned earlier, I go to a lot of industry shows. I see the new brands before they get to Target, before they're in
Yeah.
Ulta. And it's like the competition is coming from overseas, is coming from the US. Like I think it's just about how well you can position your brand for success in the long run and continue to keep consumers engaged.
Yeah. That's whoo, child. It's like when you go to those beauty conferences, it's just like so much. It's like
Yeah.
overwhelming. And like you said, these haven't even hit the market. So that little small shelf space that you holding on to at Ulta, baby, you
Because
better
you know you have 30 minutes. Do
you
you
better
know
do
you
the
have
right
30
thing.
minutes?
You better do the right thing because they coming. They coming. And so that's amazing. So our time is over here, Manessa. Tell us how we can reach you, how we can follow your journey. Tell us all the things where we can find you at.
So you can find me on TikTok, Manessa Low. You can find me on LinkedIn, Manessa Lormejuste. And then if you ever have any questions about a product development project, or if you want to learn more about my PD process and services, you can visit lormco.com. That's kind of where you can find me.
Yes, that girl is the LinkedIn queen, honey.
That's my spot.
She gonna be on LinkedIn doing her big one every chance she get. I love that for you. So again, Manessa, this was very, very important. This conversation was very important for me to bring to our Science of Beauty and my Ivana audience, just because, I saw the transition from you going from corporate, to entrepreneurship, going from a chemist to a consultant. And it's just been an amazing journey. Like every time I'm on LinkedIn and I see you, I'll be like, look at my girl. My girl doing her big one. I love it. I love it. I love it. And many blessings to you. If you guys want to follow the Science of Beauty, you can follow us on Instagram, the Science of Beauty.hq. Our website, scienceofbeauty.net, and every third Tuesday here on My Ivana TV. So thank you guys so very much. Thank you to our hosts, My Ivana, for hosting us, and thank you to our special guest, Miss Manessa Lowe.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, we'll see you guys soon. Have a great evening.
Bye.
Bye.